Welcome into this segment of Behind the Pen presented by MostValuablePodcast.com. If you want to listen to the full podcast, go to blogtalkradio.com/MostValuablePodcast. Also, we're on iTunes, so check us out there as well. Thank you all for listening as always, and enjoy the show.
This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome in, my friends, to another episode of Behind the Pen. My name is Mike Rankin, and I will be your host for today's show, and I am by myself. That's okay, because I couldn't have picked a better show to be alone. Baseball is on its way back, ladies and gentlemen, and I am so amped up to talk about it. February, whatever the date is, it doesn't matter, because pitchers and catchers have already reported, and you want to talk about one of the most celebrated artificial holidays in the world of sports, maybe in the history of everything, right? I guess that can constitute everything. Pitchers and catchers report. Why do people get so excited? I'm going to touch on that topic specifically, but I'm excited. I can't wait for the Major League Baseball season to get here. April 2nd cannot come soon enough, but at the end of this week, really actually by the time you're listening to this podcast, most likely there will be games played, actual baseball games played. Oh, I can smell the fresh summer air already, the beer, the hot dogs, the chatter, people not paying attention to the game at Wrigley Field. I digress. I cannot wait, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, World Series champions, I have so much to talk to you guys about today regarding Major League Baseball. Some specific topics, including over-unders have been released by Vegas. I want to touch on that, get you guys' reaction, give you a little bit of a rundown on that, as well as the St. Louis Cardinals. I'm going to be touching on Alex Reyes went down with a major injury. Tommy John surgery is required. And I'm going to talk about other things that relate to the Cardinals, best fans in baseball. Moving on to maybe a little closer to that side of town is the Kansas City Royals as well. I'm going to dive into their team and dissect their offseason a little bit, preview their season and how they look within their rotation. Giordano Ventura unfortunately passed away. I'm definitely going to touch on that. And maybe I'm going to sneak in some Bears. You're going to have to stay tuned to find out. And if you're listening to blogtalkradio.com/mostvaluablepodcast and you click down Behind the Pen and this specific podcast, you can hear the entirety with maybe some commercial interruption, but you won't have to wait for the YouTube segments. But if you choose and you are listening on YouTube, what's up, guys? Drop a like down below, subscribe, give us a like, drop a comment as well. Really helps out our channel. We really appreciate you guys. Over 5,000 subscribers. Make sure you roast Ricky Widmer. This has been in the works for a while, so you guys are great. Thank you for getting us to that milestone, and thank you for checking into this segment of Behind the Pen. I really do appreciate it. Also, if you really want to help us out, become a Patreon, patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. Donate what you can. We appreciate your time. We also appreciate whatever you can offer us for us to get better. We have a Pel Mics now, thanks to you guys. Thank you so much. I can't say that enough. But what should we talk about first? Well, I guess I'll decide that. It is my job to do. So you and I, let's dive into the over-under Vegas release numbers for you, just for entertainment purposes. You know, this is really early. I'm going to get a podcast out there to preview the regular season. I'm going to give my MVPs, the standings, projected records, the lineups, and all that good stuff later on. But for right now, this is just a fun little thing presented by Vegas. And the way I have this structured is really there wasn't much change from this year to last year's standings, because what I did at first was line them all up in terms of the records from last year, and then mix and matched based on the projected number that they have this year, according to Vegas. Remember, over under, it's always a number 0.5. So, you know, if you want to bet the under, say the Dodgers, for example, 91.5 wins. You want to bet the under, if they get 91 wins, you win. 92 wins, you lose if you bet the under. So that's pretty much how it works. If you're not privy to it, if you are, well, sorry to waste your time. I'm not going to waste any more time, however, and I'm going to get right into it, because this is going to be fun, in my opinion, and I look at some of these, and I think I may take a bite on this. If I was a betting man, I'm not saying that I am, but if I were, I would take a bite on a couple. So let's start with the NL West. I'm going to go down by division and standings. This is based on the number that they provided, and so here we go. Dodgers, Giants, Rockies, D-backs, Padres. That's the 5. Dodgers at 91.5, like I mentioned. I don't know. That's a pretty solid number, I would say. Giants listed at 87.5. Now, the Giants are interesting. They're a wild card. They're going to be competing with, because in the National League this year, there are going to be some competing teams for the wild card specifically. All right, a number of teams are going to be in that. So the Giants are among it, 87.5. That's a tough one. Then you have the bottom three in the West, maybe the Rockies will surprise some people. I don't really take the D-backs seriously, but the Rockies are at 79.5. I may bite. They could win 83 games, right? I might take that one. That might be a good bet. D-backs at 78.5. Boy, Shelby Miller's got to bounce back. All this other stuff going on with them. Zach Greinke didn't have a good year last year, and they relied a lot on him. Patrick Corbin as well. I'm sorry. But it's baseball conversation, guys, right? Can you feel the excitement? Because I can. And then the Padres, the lowly Padres trying to figure out whatever the hell they're doing down there in San Diego. 64.5 is the number. So ponder on those a little bit. And if you want to drop a comment, let me know what you think about those numbers. If they're if they're not what you would take, let's do it. Let's have some fun. Moving on to the NL Central, Chicago Cubs, by the way, have the highest over-under total with 95.5. And the way they list the standings is Cubs, Cardinals, Pirates, Reds, Brewers. Interesting, especially at the bottom. I'll get to that in a minute. Cubs, 95.5. That's a tough one. It's a very tough one. I'm not sure if I'm willing to make... people may think that they're going to win 100 games again, but with that rotation, losing, Jason Hamill and, Chapman's gone at the back end of their bullpen. They picked up Wade Davis, but anyway, I'm definitely going to dive more into the Cubs because I'm a huge Cub fan. Bias warning, apologize for that. But 95.5. Cardinals, 87.5. Now, the Cardinals I'm going to talk about today, there's a lot going on with the St. Louis Cardinals, so stay tuned for that. 87.5 listed as second place in the NL Central, which means the Pirates are right behind the Cardinals at 85.5. Now, the Pirates have their own issues, right? I guess the Pirates are in this phase, like they're transitioning, but at the same time, plan to be competitive in the National League somewhat. So they're in a little bit of a conundrum there. Do they want to trade McCutchen? We'll find out. Reds, 73.5. Now, I personally believe the Reds suck ass. I don't think the Reds are good at all. There's some pieces to be excited about, but really overall, they traded Phillips. They got whatever they could for Phillips, which is a good thing. But, boy. And they're above the Brewers, who are at 72.5. I would probably take the over on the Brewers. I think the Brewers are going to surprise some people this year. They have solid young studs waiting in the wings. Can they trade Ryan Braun this year? Is that going to happen? It might. It honestly might. I can't stand that scumbag, but hey, he might be on the market. He's still a valuable player. So that's your NL Central. One more time, Cubs 95.5, Cardinals 87.5, Pirates 85.5, Reds 73.5, Brewers 72.5. So let me know what you think. Nationals in the NL East leading that division at 90.5, and the Mets right underneath them at 89.5. No, man. What's going to happen in the NL East this year? Steven Strasburg, is he going to come back healthy after that injury where that looked really bad? He's throwing out in spring training or whatever their workout is this year. So this happened actually today on February 16th. I'm recording this, by the way. He was out there throwing, which is a good sign. You want that to have, you invest all that money of them in your Nationals, and they missed out on Sale. They did acquire Adam Eaton. So I talked about the Nationals with Sean Anderson in a previous podcast. You want to check that out. We go in depth about their offseason, so it was interesting. But 90.5, they're the division leaders with the Mets underneath them. I don't know. Mets got to stay healthy. That rotation is pretty much going to carry them. Let's be honest. It's the pitching for the Mets this season. Marlins 77.5, Phillies 72.5, Braves 71.5. Braves got something cooking. I like some of the Phillies' young players, and the Marlins, well, Jose Fernandez, an untimely death. Another talented young pitcher falling prey to he had a drunk incident in which he perished, right? Similar to your Dono Ventura, which I'll discuss later in this podcast with the Kansas City Royals. But man, it sucks. It sucks when that stuff happens. And I'm going to touch on what can be done to prevent, especially over, I don't know. All right, well, just stay tuned for it. And that's your NL side of things. Cubs lead it with 95.5. Would you take any of the over-unders here in the East? Because I'm looking at the Mets at 89.5. I'm thinking they might win 88 games. So I may take the under, but that's cutting it close. All right, let's move on to the West. The American League side of things this time. It's the Astros actually in first place with 87.5 wins. Interesting. Very interesting. I'm definitely going to break down the AL West maybe next week, because that is, I love it. The top three teams, Astros, Rangers, Mariners, all legitimate contenders to win that division. Rangers, by the way, 86.5, while the Mariners are at 85.5. That's a jumbled up mess, and I'm not sure if I want to take any of those bets. Angels, 76.5. I don't know what they're doing. A's bad, 66.5. AL Central time. If there's a lock in any division this year, I would have to take the Indians. And I feel like the Indians are ready to go back to the World Series, and I'm picking them to win it. I'll say that right now in the middle of February, I'm taking the Cleveland Indians this season as the World Series champions. They're just loaded. Sign Encarnacion, they're getting Salazar back. Who knows if he's going to be healthy enough to pitch throughout an entire season. Carrasco's going to come back. You got Bauer still, Kluber still, Brantley's coming back, Almonte. I just love this team. I love the Cleveland Indians this year. And of course, Lindor, arguably the best player in baseball. I said it. Moving on, Tigers 85.5, Royals 80.5. Going to get to them later. The White Sox 73.5. I may take the under on that one. May take the under on the White Sox. They have talent scattered, but you figure they're going to be dealers at the deadline, and they're going to rely a lot on younger players this season. So 73.5 is a little, a gift, I guess, a little pushing it. Twins 70.5. Are the Twins that bad? Last year they were really bad. Let's keep an eye on that. So that's the AL Central, our final division for the over-unders presented by Vegas. Remember, all of these listed in a row are projected records and standings, according to Vegas. Take that as you will. Red Sox, Blue Jays, O's, Yankees, Rays in that order. Red Sox leading it off with 90.5 wins. I'd probably take the over there. I like the Red Sox winning over 90. We're winning 91 games. They could do that. Blue Jays at 86.5. Orioles 84.5. Orioles had an interesting offseason. Blue Jays doing their thing to kind of, supplement Encarnacion. They managed to re-sign Bautista, so that was a positive. Yankees at 83.5. I think the Yankees are going to be scary good starting next year. Like immediately, they're just going to take the AL by storm. They're just going to kill it. Rays 75.5. Rays made a couple, they're out there. They're doing what they can in that smaller market. I would get 75.5 wins. That's pretty much right on the button. I would consider the Rays. So interesting stuff. Let me know what you think about what Vegas thinks about the standings and where they rank the wins. It's just fun. Here in middle of February, not much is going on. Like I said, the basketball stuff is handled by the Fast Break. I can't really talk so much about the Bears because we're just waiting for them to make a draft pick at this point or trade for Garoppolo, which I'm in favor of. And the Bulls, I talk about them enough. I talk about them way too much for my own good. So let's talk baseball all day today. That was a fun little segment. Hope you enjoyed it. And leave a comment down below what you think about the over-under. Thank you guys for sticking around for this segment of Behind the Pen. If you want more Most Valuable Podcast content, click on the video up above because I don't know why you wouldn't want to keep listening to our voices every day. But again, guys, thank you all for listening. We really do appreciate you.